You may have heard of zero defeats, but you probably have not heard of zero casualties, because as far as I know, I'm the only person in the world to defeat the Warhammer campaign while suffering zero casualties. That's right, and that includes casualties from starvation, aka having settlement besieged, attrition walking through terrible terrain, enemy agents taking hostile actions like assaulting our forces, and of course, zero casualties in battle. If a single soul within Reichland is to perish, through any of those means or more, that would result in a campaign over. Let's talk faction effects, guys. Immunity to diplomatic penalties from trespassing inside of Empire regions. Really nice. 25% gained allegiance points with your allies, and campaign movement range increased by 10% with all armies. The Lord Emperor has the ability to replenish his armies inside of neutral territories whilst not encamping or anything like that. Really superb, and making this nation a diplomatic powerhouse, which is going to be ideal for achieving this challenge. Let's talk victory conditions for Reichland. The short campaign victory can be achieved if you destroy the following factions: the Empire Secessionists, the Barrow Legion, and Sylvania, as well as occupying, looting, razing, or sacking a total of 30 different settlements. That will achieve victory, and that is the minimum that would classify as the victory, which we need to achieve while suffering zero casualties. I would love to continue on to achieve a long campaign victory, guys. However, it will take easily 10 times as long, and my plan is to continue provided that we achieve the short campaign victory, but instead on a different format over on my live stream, which will be streamed daily with the link down in the description. So with no more further ado, I hope you enjoy the Zero Casualties campaign. Thank you for watching. Alright, getting into things here, we're going to be starting a new campaign is the Empire Legendary Campaign difficulty, very hard battle, difficulty Ironman mode enabled, no in-game crisis. We're going to be playing as Karl Franz, and why are we playing as Karl Franz specifically for this challenge? I do think there's a lot of perks, a lot of things that you can use to your advantage for this challenge, this run. But the main reason is because for the Empire and stuff like that. I have spent the vast majority of my time playing Karl because I don't own all of the DLC and stuff like that, and it's just my favorite nation, favorite faction, and I'm best at it. So there may be another faction that is more well optimized towards actually achieving this goal, but we're playing as Karl.
Now is the time, men of the Empire, to unite!
So I have a very specific plan that I had practiced for the start of this run, and what I'm going to want to do is have an art collector, but I'm looking for the best trait available. Not too thrilled with these traits, and so I am actually trait farming, but regardless, you do want to hire an art collector that you're not going to use because it's the most affordable in order to maneuver around the map here. I'm going for Imperial University as far as technology is concerned, because I want to access that early Empire Captain. And we're doing the standard in terms of diplomacy, just trying to generate as much money as I can over other deals, take deals in exchange for finances, and that includes joining wars, guys. So I'm going to all of these factions, and I'm joining wars. I've never really seen somebody do this to the extent at which I am doing it right now, and that includes we can actually join what you would consider our enemies and join their wars as well. Previously you had non-aggression pacts with Tempelhof, for example, and so you are unable to join Tempelhof with Sylvania because of the non-aggression pacts, where you now can. So I joined, if you could go through that more slowly if you're more interested, and this is where we have a very unorthodox start to the campaign, guys. As you can see, Karl is force marching up north next to Vismund, and that was the first turn. So not often you're going to see a Empire Karl Franz campaign go in this manner. We opted not to engage the initial army of the Secessionists, and instead marching up to the Warherd of the One Eye. So this strategy was hammered out over many different attempts, and speaking of the Warherd of the One Eye, the entirety of what I'm doing is to undermine them. So previously the Warherd of the One Eye would move into a position where they could actually strike Middenheim or Wismund, but the AI kind of has cheat hacks and it knows exactly where Karl's army is actually located, and so this one move that I've made with the Force March has actually deterred the Warherd of the One Eye to away, and they have gone more north into the province of Middenland. In this case we got a pretty bad roll on our light wizard, but it actually doesn't matter what type of wizard you obtain. I do recommend that you steal technology there to boost your technological research rate and gain experience. Most likely if you have a weaker wizard, like a light wizard, you're going to want to hope to train it even faster, utilizing stealing research and actions and so on, so that you can get deeper and obtain those more powerful spells. You can see I hired a third arc lictor, or sorry, a third army, an arc lictor, and this is very important, guys. These moves that I'm making, if you look closely, I'm now going to station Karl adjacent to Middenheim, because the Warherd of the One Eye is only able to attack Middenheim and no longer Wismund. The presence of Karl is actually enough to deter the attack, and officially on this turn, Middenland and Todbringer has survived one turn longer than they typically do. So they would typically lose their capital or Wismund over this end turn. Instead, we have actually protected it by the moves that I have made. Multiple of our enemies who we joined war against being eliminated. So you can see I'm doing a shuffle here, guys, where the troops that we start off with have not moved much further than Wismund, because I keep exchanging their armies, and this is where my strategy really comes together. I'm going to take this ambush spot. You can see that is where the Warherd is located. This ambush spot is within range of Middenheim, with Todbringer and his small army inside of the settlement. Very important to understand. And this is the final turn at which that I'm no longer trait farming. I'm going to have to take Monster Hunter, which is I believe I take Monster Hunter here. Yes, I do. Not the best nor the worst trait, but that's okay. So this character is going to become our basically second in command, if you will, and he's actually going to soak up a lot of experience. Notice that I didn't make a trade deal or a non-aggression deal with Bastogne. There's a reason for that. And this is the move coming into fruition here, guys. You can see the force-marched army, which is outside of the reinforcement range of Middenheim, is going to bait the Warherd of the One Eye to come over. Then Karl will take control of the battle, which will then have the reinforcement of Middenheim and Todbringer. So I actually have no units which are capable of suffering casualties. Obviously that we would have to basically lose the battle and lose my generals. So let's see if this works. Due to the fact that the Warherd of the One Eye is outside of vision range, they're unable to see my ambush, and it is just us versus their ambush defense chance. If I failed ambush here, I would simply start again, as we've done very little. But as you can see, successful ambush. 4 armies, which is the maximum, utilizing Middenland's troops and not mine. 0 casualties, as you can see, bringing 2 units in, and this is a crucial tactic that is going to be utilized here, particularly in the early game, to actually take advantage of neighboring factions who are allied in wars. Just like that, the Warherd of the One Eye eliminated. So that feels really, really good, because I have actually played this campaign on Karl many times where I have played in a much more orthodox manner, defeating the Empire Secessionists one battle at a time, taking 0 casualty losses, but it would be the Warherd, the one who undermines me and ruins my campaign. Not until that I hammered out that exact strategy did I take this campaign to another level. So that is one of our real rivals eliminated. I'm selling Helmgart, as you can see, to Bastogne. This is also the reason that I'm not taking other deals with them, because I potentially want to take Helmgart back from them. The reason why I did that is because it's going to get hit by the Empire Secessionists. And speaking of the Empire Secessionists, it is a shame, guys. We're basically on turn 4. I'm out of position, and we're slow to start. Typically, the Empire Secessionists would already be eliminated, but I just was not having enough success with that playstyle. So instead I opted to take, speaking of success, you can see 3 in a row there with stealing technologies. That is really nice here for the early game. Getting our wizard up to a higher level. Yeah, so I innovated this strategy to defeat the Warherd with 1 high instead, which is extremely satisfying, and it is now us versus a kind of emboldened Empire Secessionist because they've been around for so long. Just their many numbers. That's what my second army is going to be used for, and I do have a tactic. The next phase of this challenge is to defeat the Secessionists who have been sitting there reinforcing every single turn. Now, take close observation of what happens to their secondary army. Do you see the smaller army to the south? They are kind of undecided on whether they should defend Grunberg or Uberreich. You can see he force marches, and this is as I hammered out the strategy. This was an observation that I made many times. Notice Toddbringer is now at war with the Black Pit tribe. Toddbringer just got some nice experience, guys, and the Black Pit tribe is not a legendary lord faction, so he should hopefully have much better success at kind of defending the Empire from those greenskins, but we'll see how that plays out. So the Empire Secessionists force march from Uberreich to Grunberg repetitively. That is the observation that I have made. And right now, speaking of the Black Pit, I have managed to join a war in the exact same fashion, guys. Join the war, obtain money from joining the war, and actually utilize Toddbringer's army to defeat the Black Pit, as opposed to myself, gaining additional cash and additional experience. Unfortunately, I was unable to pull that off this time, as I'm not willing to spend turn after turn stalling and waiting. So we're going to have to get used to Wildmar's name, guys, because he, in some ways, you can see is going to become our main army here, while the Empire still walks around. Check out that ambush spot. Believe it or not, this exact location is actually, this is a disgusting move, guys. I admit, this is disgusting. I'm equipping all of my equipment here. So armies have better vision range than settlements, and therefore the settlement to the left, which we can clearly see, actually does not have return vision because our range is longer. Now the settlement to the right, as you can see, it will evaporate as soon as I end the turn, because we actually don't have vision on them either. Meaning, in a similar way, the Secessionists do not have vision on the stack, and the only way that they can resist this ambush, provided that they walk into it, is with ambush defense chance. Well, guess what? Force marching reduces your ambush defense chance, and provided that he walks into us force marched, not only does it mean that it's essentially a guaranteed ambush, boom, as you can see, but not only that, what happens when you ambush an army? With the current dynamic, the meta of the game, the ambush will just walk off of the field. But what happens if you suffer a defeat while force marching? Well, you lose your army. So right now, believe it or not, guys, this is actually a victory, a guaranteed victory. I could just hide in the trees or behind line of sight, and we've already won. So that is a very so it seems almost overpowered, and it kind of is, but it's because we caught a force marching army in an ambush. Now that is a very unlikely scenario in general, but I have hammered this out. I noticed the pattern in which the AI behaves in this situation, and I was able to take advantage of that. So I already know that I have won this battle. As you can see, this is the first battle that we're playing out as opposed to an auto-resolve. What I'm trying to do is to get experience on my units and to get loot, basically. Money from the enemy. If they are to walk off of the field, they will evaporate and disappear, as you will see shortly. So my main goal and my main objective is to not suffer casualties, whether it is those Pistoliers running by shooting my mortars at them and essentially triggering combat. This has provoked the Pistoliers or the whole army to flee as quickly as they can out of this ambush situation, and that includes the Pistoliers, which are actually faster, you can see. So the Pistoliers are dangerous as they shoot 360 degrees, and they could potentially kill our armies. But as soon as the Pistoliers are off of the field here, you can see I'm going into loot. And I do admit, this is pretty janky, guys. You can see the army is now even weaker. Now they have lost the Pistoliers. And it does behave in a quite an unusual manner. Like, for example, I think we will see here coming up that the archers do not return fire, but nor do they actually flee at one point, I think. So you can see I'm using my single entities to try to rope them down, using the net of Admintalk, and then firing those powerful handgunners into them. You do have to be very wary of friendly fire here, guys. But I'm just trying to get as much experience in loot as I possibly can, and it does get a little bit janky here with these ambushes, which there's actually some more of that to come in the future, you'll see as well. The main task I have with the Reichsguard in this situation, I'm basically going to hunt down fleeing regiments that have routed in order to clean them up, essentially. I think I'm trying to overcast the spell, but I don't have the rank yet. Also, you can see their enemy lord has basically just stood still. So, like I said, quite janky. I think it's because what they try to do in this situation when they are committed to fleeing in the ambush is they try to basically have a small amount of army to tank you, so to speak, to engage you, and they try to run off with the rest that is not engaged. To cut their losses, but it does end up just being quite janky, as you can see, but no worries, that is just profit for us to exploit here.
Ready for war! Servant of Sigma! At speed! By Ulrich's wrath! I do not fear death! Conditions acceptable! The Empire endures! Hammer of the Empire! Illumination upon them! Ready to serve! Now! Eager for battle! Moving now! Light is might! We are Sigma's heirs! Attack! We obey! Light wizard! Hail Sigma! Take position! Illumination upon them! Hand gunners! For Heldenhammer! Move out! I serve his! Reichsguard Knights! Vanish! Awaiting orders! Prepare the combat!
Alright, battle ends up and we're just going to run down as many as we can with the Reichsguard and stuff. Notice that I did take some damage on my Light Wizard, for example. It is, of course, the Empire Secessionists' turn, not my own turn. And what that means is we are still going to receive the replenishment at the beginning of my own turn. So if we're lucky, we're going to be full health even on our individual characters, if not, very close to being full. Okay, as the first battle draws to an end, guys, we see that magic number 0 losses. That is the number that we need to see in every single engagement for the entirety of this game, unless of course they are allied troops which have been destroyed. And take note of the health of the pistoliers, the swordsmen. You would think there could potentially be a remnant force here, but a reminder, they were in force march. So as I said, believe it or not, we could have actually just let them walk off the field, which would technically result as a defeat. They retreated, and they would just poof into thin air. So very powerful catch here, an opener with the Secessionists, and they're going to basically have their 1 stack as well as their 3 settlements remaining. Look at that Trickster's Helm, guys. Beautiful pickup here from this first battle with the ward save. One of the better armor pieces available to the Empire, so feeling good about that. As far as overall things are concerned, the successes with our wizards' actions and the Trickster's Helm, we've been pretty lucky. We could be more lucky in terms of the Black Pit situation and stuff, which results in a lot of affluence and puts Middenheim in better shape to defend the Empire. But overall, I'm very happy with how things are going. You can see the Court of the Night. That is one of the wars that I joined. Eliminated. I believe there's not a single nation that I regretted joining the war in exchange for finances. So as you can see, I did go for the ability with the gunnery building, the barracks building, to hire... I built those on turn 1 to hire characters, guys. And this is going to be crucially important for our success, is to get as many single entity characters up as possible, because of course those are the characters that can actually engage the enemy, and we have some degree of leeway where they can fight without suffering casualties. Otherwise, the unorthodox maneuvers continue as the Emperor marches over to Breezeburg, actually, the Fort Breezeburg. Looking at opportunities to get a good payout for peace with these factions who we join the war on. That's something we want to do every turn. And the commendation to get a little bit of experience utilizing the newer Empire mechanic here, putting prestige into experience where we can. Alright guys, so this is actually, despite the auto resolves, and despite that very clever, if I do say so myself, ambush, this is the first battle that we're going to have to very much legitimately fight. There is no trick to it, right? It is simply do or die here, 0 casualties, and there will be many battles like this to come. In this case, as you can see, it is simply the garrison, and we're always very focused on the enemies which can return fire. So against against melee infantry only, we have the handgunners, we have the mortars, we have the Lord to bog down a regiment, we have spells to some degree, right? So we can really pummel them with enough shrewd maneuvering around, putting damage into them. We can defeat those units. It is the units that have the ability to return fire that are very concerning, and obviously if we were going to get overwhelmed by numbers we would be very concerned, but in this case we actually have more units overall. So what I opt to do, believe it or not, is to use my Reichsguard and to actually try to juke them. So I have done this pretty reliably. The Reichsguard can die to the crossbows, guys, they definitely can, but if you run near within their range due to their high armor and you try to sort of juke around, you can actually tank the crossbows to some degree. And you can see in my case that the Reichsguard have acquired the attention of the crossbows, which is actually kind of drawing their fire, but more so as we go in and out of range, the crossbows will actually waste their time firing into nothing, kind of stalling. It doesn't rack my nerves a little bit, as you can see the Reichsguard eat a volley there, but due to their sort of health and armor, they are able to tank that. And in this case, I'm able to close the gap with the Reichsguard into the crossbows, which basically turns them off. As long as another melee unit does not come and reinforce, I can start pummeling them, and if I can get those crossbows out of the match, I'm feeling much more comfortable. In the meantime, you can see that my tactic is to simply use the mortars to fire at will, and the mortars, there's a little bit of friendly fire there, I think, guys, so the handgun is into the wizard. The mortars do not do very much damage against regiments that are just encroaching upon you walking up. However, they do have a very powerful advantage to them, which is the melee infantry will often try to dodge the mortar shots and the mortar fire, and therefore they will not necessarily just run at you in a straight line. So in this situation, that is the primary advantage, is if the enemy regiments just charge our handgunners, then obviously I'm going to have to run my handgunners away instead of fire into them. So the mortars delay the charge as the melee infantry tries to dodge, and we're able to get much more value out of the handgunners. Otherwise, what I opt to do is to use my single entities, being my wizard and my lord, to bog down the regiments who are sort of ahead of the others, making it through, and continue to pummel them and fire into them with the handgunners to great results. There are situations, nice, the crossbows are shattered here, so I can bring the Reichsguard back to potentially hunt down other regiments which are routing, and that will affect the balance of power. If a regiment is simply fleeing as opposed to shattered or routed off of the field, they do still contribute to the balance of power, and the sooner that we shatter everything, the sooner they will break entirely, right? Speaking of balance of power, my melee infantry, which is hidden in the forest, does contribute to the balance of power as long as they're inside of the battle. So one approach that you could take is to completely, we could actually take every individual unit that doesn't have much tactical use to us, and we could withdraw them from combat. However, that would lower my balance of power, meaning the enemy would hold on for a long time because of how weak we are. So the fact that we have all of this infantry in reserve is what compelled the enemy just to break right now, whereas if I was simply using my handgunners, which are halfway depleted on ammo, and my lord, my mortar also ammo depleting, they would hang on for longer. But just like that, guys, we did take some pretty severe damage on the wizard. Some of that was, I think, eating some of our own volley from the handgunner, some bullets there, but that is a clean victory. I always have to be very cautious of friendly fire. Trust me, in my experimenting and my hammering out these strategies, my attempts, you could say, many runs were ended by friendly fire, and it is something that you always have to stay on top of. It's quite challenging to overcome. The Battle of Grunberg, guys, 0 losses, as you can see. So that was almost like a tutorial battle, guys. No Lord involved, no higher tier units. The Secessionists, of course, do begin, just like the player, with an army, and that army includes a mortar. It includes, I believe, handgunners, and in their case, knights, as opposed to Reichsguard. But honestly, similar value, and on this difficulty, quite frankly, more powerful than Reichsguard. We're going to occupy Grunberg as per usual. Nice little common weapon there. Actually, the Terror is pretty useful as a sort of supportive weapon on the Wizard, guys.
Ready to serve. Honored to serve.
And I did, believe it or not, actually make a mistake in this run, guys. So, if I'm not mistaken, yeah. Okay, we're now building the war wagons. However, the mistake that I did make, which you'll see it puts me in a pretty precarious situation, is that I actually didn't recruit regular units, regular troops on the previous turns. I think I know I could have squeezed out at least 2 regiments. Now, those regiments do end up sitting in reserve, and not only do you have to pay for them, which I haven't done, you also have to pay for the upkeep. So you can see I hired another lord that is for strategic reasons, you'll see coming up here.
All right.
So you can see the incentive of why I did not do that, hire the regiments, because I would have been spending a lot more money over the course of time, and as we just spoke about, they mostly just end up sitting in reserve. However, the reason I made that mistake is because I'm still in the process of doing my best to hammer out these strategies, and I regretted it badly. You'll see that not having those extra additional few regiments actually had a dramatic impact on this run. Thankfully, somehow, I was able to actually pull it off. And I suppose the plus side is that we have more money, because I skimped on that. You can see how hard pressed the economy is. Speaking of money, I opt to actually... I believe I'm concerned about the human conflict debuff there, guys. I would typically take that. Okay, you can see the Secessionists have pushed with their main stack into our part of Reichland, guys. Alt Dwarf surrounding territory. So what I'm doing is, I know that he is out of range here due to the fact that I cannot see him. He can also not see me. That is a 70% ambush. And this is where we take the bait, or we set up bait, excuse me, with the forced march army. So similar approach to what we have previously done up in Middenheim. The difference, however, is we have to fight this one. We cannot auto-resolve because I have units. Opting for the next technology to go for the missile strength improvements.
I am France. They will obey.
And in this situation, guys, I'm actually checking the diplomacy of the Barrow Legion. They have since completely obliterated Artois in the few starting turns, and what they would typically do here is attack Marienburg. Marienburg, being a non-legendary lord faction, just gets absolutely annihilated, as legendary lords have a objective advantage against non-legendary lords, and you'll typically see the Barrow Legion just blow their way through Marienburg.
Champion of the faith.
The few agents that I have managed to recruit, I'm putting them into my main stack here and pumping more out every turn here. Our first warrior priest, This is our technology, guys, which allows us to hire, it just finished, second Empire Captain. So I will get dramatically stronger over the end turn, and you can see that I'm opting to actually delete those buildings and free up space now that I've basically utilized them. So I'm going to have more agents than I have available agents, so to speak. But we need to start investing that space into other, well, maybe economy or other buildings. As you can see, economy's not looking too good. So this is a powerful army, guys. They have swordsmen, the great swordsmen rather. They have the cavalry, the missile units, the mortar, and of course, despite our success right now, I am kind of stressing a little bit. I'm hoping that this ambush is going to be a success over in Grunberg. Again, mastering the kind of ambush approach. They cannot see us, meaning they're going to have to resort to their ambush defense chance. Very high likelihood of success. And you can see Marienburg, if you look at the little red X of swords, is at war with Barrow Legions. The Barrow Legion recently, they only attacked them that turn, which is perfect. A demand from Sylvania, and we're just going to give in to his demands, guys. No pride, no ego on this run. If we were at war with Sylvania this early, it would probably bode very poorly for us. So I just have to give him 1600 there that he demands ambush success, as you can see. And although that would be a great ambush auto-resolve, guys, close victory, and we would replenish on our turn, that the ambush would fully eliminate the enemy's forces, we cannot suffer casualties, of course. So, I mean, that in a regular game, we essentially just defeated the Secessionists here with this play. But I have to do this manually. So notice we did recruit war wagons, and the war wagons have the they're a very unique unit in the set for this particular run, in the sense that they technically can take some damage, right? As opposed to most units, if they take any damage, the game is over. So they do provide some value, which is pretty cool. But look at the sheer amount of missile units that the opponents have. Formidable and terrifying. And this is really the crux of the campaign right now here in the early game. It is the definitive battle against the Empire Secessionists. And this gets pretty ugly, guys. So, what do I mean by that? Well, throughout my experience of hammering out this strategy, the reason that the ambush is so crucially important is because, as per usual, in what ought to happen in ambush is that the enemy will begin to wander off of the field as they get to the retreating zone. And what I attempt to do is to intercept them when they have wandered off partially, and to eliminate some of their more powerful key units, to soften them up as much as I can, so that they are more manageable in upcoming battles. But much to my horror, you can see that they do not retreat. Yes, so I cannot exploit that. And this is exactly what I was talking about with the fact that I didn't hire those few regiments. If I had invested multiple turns ago, when I had the opportunity, into additional regiments, that would have compelled them here to be more intimidated and to just simply walk off of the field. So, needless to say, in my mind, I think the campaign is over at this point, guys. I really do. I'm thinking, that one mistake has ruined the entire campaign. What I'm opting to do, though, I know that if I fire upon the enemy with missiles, then it will have the opposite of effect of what I just spoke about. Instead of moving off of the field, the enemy will hunker down. They will grit their teeth and they will commit. If we fire with if we utilize our magic missile ability from our wizard, if we fire at them with essentially any regiment, if we start laying into them, it will provoke the enemy into attacking and fully committing. As you can see right now, they're kind of sitting back, almost in a limbo state. And I had never confirmed this, but I was wondering, is it possible, due to the fact that they have not committed, that they would still potentially walk off of the battle? Is it possible that the reason that they would normally walk off is because those additional units contribute to the balance of power? So in my mind, I'm wondering, this is just testing, guys, basically as I go, if the mortar depletes its ammo, as you can see, and then I'm thinking maybe if I can walk up and provoke shots from the archers and so on, if the enemy's balance of power depletes, but they are not locked in, committed to the battle, is it possible that they will retreat again? This is what I'm trying to figure out, and it takes time. As you can see, I'm working on the mortar right now. The mortar's done very little damage, and definitely balance of power would be going in my favor in theory. Alright, so here the mortar is depleted of its ammunition, and I attempted to walk up and kind of waste ammo of other units. I did receive a volley of handgunners though, which kind of took its toll. They've done some damage now. And as you can see, I don't have the speed up. Look at that. Terrifying. So needless to say that the morale of our troops is doing fine. But my morale in real life is just about broken here. But I'm thinking, oh no, this is over. But notice, interestingly, that we are wasting some of the archers' ammo, and they're even doing a little bit of friendly fire to themselves, if you watch this. So when I saw the infantry charge in, I thought it was over. But still, the enemy does not seem to be locked in. So it goes on here for a while. I'm wondering if I can waste these archers' ammo. You can see their cavalry is provoked here, guys. So again, my morale is breaking. It feels like there is no hope at the end of the tunnel. The pistoliers are getting some value, and this is the first time that I actually engage them with my lord. So at this point, I'm pulling up everything. I'm considering pulling up reinforcements, some of my other single entities. I'm just embracing the fact that it's over, but I'm learning on the fly here, is it possible to actually fight with the lords and that will not provoke the army? It's kind of looking that way. So I begin a pretty ugly skirmish here, bringing in my Empire Captain and my other Arc Lictor, who were in reinforcing armies, in an attempt to drop Hans, because if we can drop Hans, the enemy's lord, that would be good for the balance of power. I am definitely taking damage myself, there's no doubt about that, but yes, as you can see, it's quite confusing. If I would have guessed, I would suggest that the enemy is locked in at this point, but they're noticeably behaving strangely. They're only committing, some of their units and not everything. And then just like that, they mobilize all of their units. So I assure you, at this point, my sort of hand is over the escape button until I notice they seem to be strangely moving to the edge of the map. I genuinely thought this was over, guys, but is it the case that they actually did register to retreat? And they did, as you can see. So I actually confirmed this for myself, that this is possible live in the moment. I just realized, as you can see, a huge portion of their troops did in fact retreat off, and that is just remarkable. Now, the goal ordinarily is to eliminate all of their high-profile units as they retreat, including their pistoliers, their handgunners, the mortars. Those are the primary ones. Now, I haven't been able to achieve that goal, but as of right now, victory is ours. Look how few we're fighting all of a sudden. It's just a matter of ensuring that I don't suffer casualties from some method. So yeah, guys, amazing stuff. You know, this is the most flying by the seat of my pants type of situation I was in. I wouldn't have been in this situation at all if I had just hired a couple more regiments earlier on in the campaign when I had the option to. That mistake almost costed me the run, but as you can see here, we are going to win. At this point, I felt comfortable, like a miracle, that we are going to win. My units are still going to be damaged even with the replenishment. However, the enemy will not replenish because they're inside of our territory. But I was still completely unsure due to the fact that I have not been able to eliminate their high-profile units, their handgunners, speaking of which there is one unit right there, the handgunners, which is kind of bugged out due to this awkward ambush situation. I was unsure if I was going to have the ability to win the next battle clean, guys. The idea is that after softening them up in this ambush, we would then take a clean battle against the softened up army. I believe my thought process here is to leave their lord alive at very low health, because he's only level 2, he most likely has no items. If I eliminate that lord, guys, which I could do somewhat easily right now, as he's retreating, then they will because it's still their turn, guys. I believe they will simply hire another lord on the army, which will then be a full health lord. So instead, I'm opting to have him at very low health, so that in the next battle I can eliminate him very easily, and that will be a big detriment to the overall morale and balance of power and stuff like that, as opposed to having a full life level 1 lord. That's why I allowed him to retreat off of the field. Yeah, but I'm stoked at this point, guys, because I genuinely thought that one mistake had ruined the run, and we're still in this. Only my single entities are the ones suffering there with their health pools. The only downside is that the enemy army is not softened up in terms of eliminating their strategically powerful units. And I'm just wondering, do we still have what it takes? But as you can see, 0 clear across the board there, including the garrison. We cannot have a single casualty. And so far, so good. Judging by the enemy here, guys, despite depleting their ammo, the mortar is still healthy. They have an injured handgunner as well as a full health handgunner. They have an injured pistoliers, the knights, and many archers. Many archers. So pretty intimidating stuff to go against, but I'm hoping that we can pull it off. Trying to take pardon captives and take the additional cash everywhere that I can. Desperate for finances, guys. So thankfully Marienburg has not thrown, and nor did the Barrow Legion actually really take initiative when they started that war. That's really good for us, guys. My plan working really well. There is a reason, of course, apart from just providing vision, that I have moved Karl all the way over to Fort Bergbreeze.
As is my right by Sigmar's crown.
Now, I am concerned about that little reinforcing army from the Empire Secessionists and whether it has the range or not to reach Karl, because we are at war with them, remember. But this is probably the play that I'm most proud of and puts us in the best shape overall for this campaign.
Let's go.
The play that I'm about to make. Just checking general diplomacy, which is something we want to do. particularly in the early game, every turn.
Why talk to
And
you?
as you can
The
see,
Grand
I'm going to
Theogony
join
shall
against the
declare
Barrow
you traitors,
Legion,
and so be
guys.
it.
Join with Marienburg. It's a good diplomatic move, and it gives us some good money. But the Barrow Legion is inevitably our
I
enemy.
will do anything for Sigmar.
Voldemar getting some decent experience in his own
For
right,
the
guys.
Emperor!
And I want to make sure to use my other agents here, make sure they get experience, and I may rely on them for this battle, so joining them up.
Champion of the faith.
I serve the Heldenhammer. I live to serve.
He shouldn't have the ability to retreat, I don't think, does he? No, he doesn't.
DM.
You can't retreat after losing a battle. Yeah, so, I mean, more of the same, guys. I just, at this point, due to that one error, we are, I suppose, in slightly better financial shape. But in my mind, this battle is supposed to be a lot easier. The surviving troops are supposed to consist of mostly infantry, and perhaps a little bit of archers if he's seriously built as many as he has. But I'm a little bit unsure about this large-scale battle. You know, needless to say, a battle like this is beyond winnable. Absolutely easy, in fact, for an experienced player like myself. But it's about not taking any casualties. So, if we were to be ultra safe, I would really like my heroes and lords to kind of solo the entire enemy force. That's how we would be safe in this situation, doing a much larger scale battle, in which that I'm not really practiced. But it obviously, in the back of my mind, I am aware of just how impactful the handgunners, for example, can be, and also the Reichsguard shutting down the opposition's fire of the archers and their mortars and so on. So, yeah, stress is feeling high right now. If the enemy does not encroach upon me, at the moment I'm trying to waste their ammo with their mortars, which, perfect, absolutely perfect. They're setting back, but I believe it's because the rest of my army is hidden in the forest. They're actually willing to waste their ammo against the single targets, which is in fact a massive waste. They'll be lucky to connect at all. In the meantime, as I stall, we're waiting for Vildmar, I believe, our reinforcements. A reinforcing Lord. No, Vildmar is the main arc lictor we're using. This guy was just bait for the previous army, but I'm still relying on him, the arc lictor. So I was under the impression that mortars can hide in the forest if they put down their equipment, and there we go, proven correct. But I'm kind of wondering why they were so bad at hiding there. And just patiently waiting for the mortars to foolishly expend their ammunition. So in terms of approaching the enemy, approaching a method of engaging the enemy, I believe I'm trying to line up a shot here with our magic missile on their lord. If we could simply eliminate him with that method, without engaging him at all, before he is mobbed by his own friends reinforcing him, I'm thinking that's a good approach, so there we go. Starting off with this, quite frankly, not too impactful spell, but if they're going to sit back at range, I'm just going to keep exploiting that here, as we have a lot of wins.
Sigma exultant with haste. Illuminus calls.
So, looks like they are thoroughly provoked now at this stage. They're just running around, messing around with formations. One more clean missile shot and that will be dead. He literally, I believe he had 1 life there, that's what it looked like, but it was in fact a kill. Beautiful. Not regretting the fact that we left that lord on low health. So, speaking of lords, some of my characters, you can see their art collector is on horseback. I think it's 1 Empire Captain and the art collector. And that gives us the mobility to engage their ranged units, right? Even though it's only 1 lord and they will eliminate the archers easily and decisively, it does take a long time, unfortunately. But more importantly than that, it prevents the archers from firing back at us. So, very important to utilize that mobility. Otherwise, look at how we're kind of being pincered, especially the Empire Knights are putting me into a bit of a panic mode, guys. They simply right now have too many numbers for my single entities to manage, and that's why I'm opting to utilize the war wagons. If I'm going to use something that can take fire, it's going to have to be the war wagons. That's my mind. I believe my wizard there just managed to actually engage in melee combat with the Empire Knights. So he is taking a lot of damage, but if we can just hold them down, the war wagons do have armor-piercing rounds, and we crucially, you can see the pistoliers routed due to the war wagons, MVPs. Swagons on our war wagons, absolutely everybody's favorite unit. But I'm desperately trying to net here before my wizard routes, which I believe I did get off. And Empire Knights are faster than wagons, guys, but if the Knights go after us, it will still take them some time to catch us, and we will be firing with armor-piercing rounds as they are on our heels. So I'm hoping that the war wagons do have the ability to eliminate the Knights, which are a huge liability. If the Knights run over to our mortars, for example, it's basically game over. At this stage, they're going for the lords, which is pretty much the best case scenario. Not only are they not going for the mortars, but not even the war wagons themselves. So I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable to bring the war wagons out to play. At this stage in the early game, they have ammunition issues, as you can see, but this blob of enemies is going to wear us out. Look at those firing a volley into the war wagons. That's freaking me out, guys. But the war wagons, you know, there's 4 of them, so it means that you cannot lose a wagon if they're above 75 health, right, if you think about it. And even if they are at 75 health, it's most likely that there is some distribution of damage between the 4 different wagons, as opposed to just 1. So they certainly can dip in health, and we're not going to lose one, and nor the troops inside. But it is frightening. I'm trying to use the spell here to throw into this blob to get some value out of it. And at this stage, I'm actually panicking about my wizard itself. If they keep firing volleys into the wizard, very low armor, using their range against the wizard itself could actually perish. So I almost want him to flee off the field at this stage, but I'm going to try to put him into reserve into the trees, I believe. Very close, as you can see, very action-packed. If you look at the battle markers above my lords, they're actually, according to the game, they're not trading well. So obviously against melee infantry and stuff, they are trading well because they're lords, but they feel as though the battle is being lost in general overall. And, you know, it's kind of regrettable, guys, but I'm pulling out the handgunners because I'm feeling desperate. Needless to say, If the handgunners even receive one moderately clean volley from an archer or something, very likely that one will die and the campaign will be over. But what I'm hoping at this stage is if I can use my resources to, for example, deal with this particular archer stack that is out and about. If I can use the war wagons, for example, use the wizard or anything that's out and about, maybe I should be using my Reichsguard here. My thought is if I can deal with that and we're essentially dealing with this one blob there around the lords, then the handgunners can come in, put out crazy damage, and mass rout the enemy at this stage. So I have been mobilizing the Reichsguard. Obviously, I'm a little bit panicked, trying to do my best job microing here. And at this stage, I'm genuinely just hoping for the best, that we have what it takes. As it gets more and more down to the wire. Our wizard routing for the third time, it looks like. And he actually shattered off of the field. But so for all I know, remember how low health he was? The campaign's already over, guys. But I suspected, I hadn't confirmed it, but I had suspected at this moment that he shattered and is in fact not dead, our light wizard. That's my guess. If I had seen him die, then I would have already abandoned the run. So I'm very concerned about friendly fire here, guys. These knights going in on the Reichsguard, terrifying, and I'm trying to shoot at their heels, but I'm worried about the armor-piercing rounds from the war wagons, potentially friendly firing. So the Reichsguard clashing with the low morale knights there, thankfully routing them before a single one of them dies, single casualty, and as you can see, the victory is ours. So there are certain situations, guys, certain battles where I'm not 100% sure, quite frankly, if I lost or not. But I'm thinking right now we're in the clear with the wizard shattering and not dying. Everybody's looking healthy in terms of number, so looking good. And that was really, those previous two battles were the definitive battles against the Empire Secessionists. They have a very small stack inside of Eilhart, as well as just basic reinforcements now, right? After this battle, they've lost any higher tier unit like the Knights, the Handgunners, and so the Secessionists, hopefully, the writing is on the wall, and it's just a matter of a few turns here before we claim complete victory over them. Beautiful. You can see the 0-0-0 there, the 0 losses in both armies, and I'm convinced our wizard, of course, is alive. If you look at the casualties on that, or the kills that have our friendly units have achieved, the Reichsguard always comes in really high, but you got to keep in mind that the majority of those are actually post-battle, or at the very least they're running down units that have already broken. That can impact the battle pretty well, running down units that have already broken, but it's normally post-battle. So it's really, you know, our single entities, the Empire Captains, the Lords, which are clutching up here, and the war wagons as well, let's be honest. But that is the key, and we're going to hope that there's going to be more of that to come, guys, as we build up and up. The single entities getting really numerous and really powerful and carrying us to victory here. You can see Wizard alive, guys, with a slither of health. Spooking me out. A little bit undecisive as to exactly what I want, guys, but you can see I opt for the 4 missile strength from Pistol Corps in terms of the experience line.
Your word is my command.
Yeah, so Wolfram is our kind of random art collector that I'm just using right now, guys. He was bait, and I felt like I depended on him there for that battle.
Your word is my command.
Now, I'm using him to...
Here to serve.
Never mind. Ideally, we're in the channeling stance, guys, and I use another army to reinforce, but I didn't have the movement range there. Okay, so I am investing to into the economy there in Altdorf with the Weaving House, and now that I feel more comfortable, guys, I am going to actually diminish my army size little by little, beginning with the infantry there. Wow, I actually went crazy. That was more than I thought, guys. I deleted everything apart from the war wagons. So I actually expected to keep the Reichsguard and handgunners for longer there, but my memory's not serving me well. I just YOLO'd it up, deleted everything. We got war wagons and single entities only. Of course, that bodes extremely well on the economy, and that's why I'm doing it. I'm starting to really worry about financial reasons. So no longer do we have those units in reserve. Instead, we're going to have useful units on battle, but our overall balance of power will be worse. So needless to say, guys, I am nervous right now with the Barrow Legion making their action. This is a pivotal point. If this goes badly, it's game over, as you can see, but check it out. Boom. 3 massive stacks from the Barrow Legion. And of course, the player being involved in the battle eliminates the non-legendary lord penalty. So with 2 lords, you can see he's got an Empire Captain, the garrison, his full stack army, and the Emperor. Just like that, order resolved against 3 massive stacks, almost the entirety of what the Barrow Legion has to throw at us, defeated. Just like that. I'm so proud of that tactic, guys. You know, it takes a lot of courage and a lot of forethought to play in that manner. But by simply being involved in the battle, we eliminated the massive bonus that the Legendary Lord receives against a non-Legendary Lord, and we have basically allowed Marienburg as the buffer state to actually defeat a far greater opponent, put them on the back foot, the back heel. So now they're out here licking their wounds as Marienburg charges forward, punishes them. You can see Emil von Corden is up to rank 7, guys. And of course we receive that nice Legendary Lord bonus from Himmler, I forget his name, as well as remember, guys, that we are intending to, this is a good diplomatic move, right, with Marienburg, and we're intending to confederate him in the future. So that is XP going towards one of our characters, I'm just saying. So feeling really, really thrilled with that move.
A quest has been issued, mighty lord. A great adventure beckons. Be wary, though.
Spell resistance to the entire army. I hope that one day our entire army is composed of single entities, guys, and 10% spell resistance to all of them. Super juicy. Super nice. As well as some XP, which is desperately needed. We'll do another commendation. Desperately needing the XP on the Emperor, and he is level 9 on turn 9. Not exceptionally good. It's a lot easier in the early game to farm experience, but nor is it terribly bad either.
Not now.
I'll just throw it out there that Emil, the Empire Captain, sorry, the faction leader of Marienburg, he did also receive the bonus there from Himmler. The defeat trait.
I refuse.
By Sigma.
Okay, so I'm feeling pretty good now that we've got the 2 financial buildings completed in Old Dwarf. And if I remember correctly, I'm actually somewhat willing, now that the Barrow Legion has taken a huge L, I'm feeling slightly comfortable, guys, if you will. I'm kind of feeling like I'm a little bit ahead of the game in that regard. And I believe I kind of engage in a sort of status quo moment. Look at this.
Friend or enemy?
Due to the Barrow Legion's strength of power being so low with those defeats, I was able to bring Corona against him for essentially free. 74 ducats or so, which is an amazing diplomatic move of Corone. It's very important that we are like the leader of the free will. We need to engage in crazy amounts of diplomacy and order-tide to protect every flank from enemies and have allies around us. And yeah, Corone and I are now involved in a war with the same faction, which is going to dramatically increase our relations with them. And quite frankly, with the terrible shape that the Barrow Legion is in, you would think that they would simply expire over time by having a powerful Legendary Lord at war with them. I was trying to say that perhaps we are not in so much pressure now, that the economy is doing well. I believe I'm trying to bring Carl back around. And you can see the Empire Secessionists are not even actually recruiting this turn, guys, with that force march. So, if I recall correctly, you can see the 100% ambush there. That is because I have the cunning trait on one of my characters, and I'm trying to actually recruit more war wagons. So, war wagons, although they're a bit of a meme and not that good, they are, in our case, a unit. This is very concerning. You can see the orcs, bone rattlers, coming in close. It seems projected as they're at war with Bastogne that they will actually acquire Home Guard, which is concerning. And they're a big threat to the Empire and civilization in general. The bone rattlers, I'm very concerned about them. Yeah, the war wagons can tank some hits as opposed to no hits, and they can get involved in combat somewhat as opposed to not at all. So in the early game, while I lack settlements, which the settlement buildings are what allow you to unlock additional hero units, we lack hero units, we lack units in general, and that is why I'm building war wagons, because they have some use as opposed to none at all. And I'm focusing them in terms of technology, missile bonuses, buffs with our pistol corps, missile bonuses, because if we get enough war wagons with their armor-piercing rounds, we can make some use out of them, which I'm looking forward to. Corone also should be beginning to look more and more favorably with Marienburg, due to the fact that they have a common enemy as well. So I'm hoping that this was a very good diplomatic move for the region. And yet another successful ambush here, guys. Utilizing the enemy's turn as opposed to my own to engage in combat. So that was kind of the equivalent of attacking the enemy in my prior turn. But in this case, we're going to take a nice defensive ambush battle, reinforce, replenish in our territory, and then push the advantage next turn. So, yeah, needless to say that I'm stoked with how the campaign is progressing at this point, and I believe out of all of my challenges and all of my runs, this is the most success that I had ever had. I did make many different attempts, and I had progressed to a much later turn in some of my attempts, but none of them were shaping up so well. And I was... The bone rattlers on the horizon, though, are extremely concerning, and it does indeed feel like at any moment the campaign could come to an end. But as far as our immediate, what is in front of us immediately here, these issues, actually feeling really comfortable and, dare I say, pretty easy. Look at this. Clean ambush. They're fleeing off of the field. I'm able to use my single entities on horseback to bog them down just in case they want to fire back. And therefore, the war wagons can fire freely. Not too worried about friendly fire, as my single entities are the ones that are engaged. Of course, if you look at the composition of our army, guys, we can essentially take some damage on all of our units now, and it will not result in a campaign-ending moment. It would have to be for one of our single entities to fully die and expire, or alternatively a wagon to actually drop. But it feels really, really nice.
Yes, General! Very well! Marching! They are using guns! Immediately! We are Sigma's heirs! Quickly!
One thing that I really enjoy about this challenge in general, guys, is that it's forcing me to use some units that I typically wouldn't use, like the wagons. Because despite how strong they are, or how weak they are, they're fun. Missile chariots, chasing enemies down, firing in their flanks. It's a good time.
A new view! Attack! Sigma calls! Formation march!
Yet another victory is ours, guys, getting into a nice swing of things. And having so many single entity units, this experience is so valuable, right? Seeing, you know, 5, 6 units level up per battle. Very satisfying. Clean zeros that we want to see every single time. At this moment, I am a little bit disappointed that this XP is going to Valdemar instead of Karl, but, you know, can't always get exactly what you want. Very happy with the overall state of the campaign. Force marches off with his tail in between his legs as he knows that Uberreich is ours next turn. So Marienburg is trolling a little bit the way that he's besieging a settlement there with no walls. He could be replenishing his army. Typical AI is just about as dumb as humanly possible when you're depending on them. But he's still in decent shape thanks to the play that we made, so we'll see what happens there. Muselion destroyed, by the way. Corone was at war with Muselion. We joined that war for diplomatic and financial reasons. And the fact that they're destroyed now, I believe Corone is at war with the Barrow Legion and nobody else. With the Barrow Legion being in such bad shape, we hope that Corone will actually self-autonomously eliminate that. The short campaign victory does require the Barrow Legion to be eliminated, and if they can be eliminated while the ideal is that I don't even bother, guys, to go out there and deal with them. That they're instead self-autonomously eliminated after that play that I made. That would be the absolute ideal scenario.
Destroy!
Opting to get more steel research to buff our research rate, as we're not dependent on the wizard to take a battle like this at this stage.
By Sigma! Protector of the weak. The Empire! Sigmarite Archlector. Purge the heretics.
As you can see, I'm inspecting the warrior priest just a little bit, guys. I took quite a break from Warhammer 3, and they introduced little patches and things like that. And one thing that I'm quite horrified about when it comes to the warrior priest is actually how low their melee defense in particular is. I don't believe it was always that low, so we're actually looking at less than 30 and excuse me, I believe they have 30 defense, and for example, that engineer actually has more defense than the warrior priest. So warrior priests very much have a reputation of being extremely tanky, and of course they have their abilities, which I was just inspecting a little bit at what rank you obtain them and so on, because they have the ability where they have 20% ward save for a period of time themselves, and the area of effect 20% ward save. Excuse me, both of which can stack up to 40, so extremely powerful. In this case I'm worried about that stacking Ironheart hitting Carl up, guys, so I'm just moving away from him a little bit. But the warrior defense itself is extremely low, guys. They do get defense from some of their levels, and obviously they can acquire it from armor, and they desperately need that. Anyway, the only thing I was pointing out here with this little ramble is that in the beginning of the game, before they have skills and armor, they are extremely weak in terms of soaking damage, so much worse than an Empire Captain, which it does kind of make sense because the Empire Captain in many ways was, I'm talking about older patches, was just worse. But the Empire Captain is much more powerful now, just by comparison, standing on its own merit of its stats. But yeah, the Warrior Priest is literally in a similar vein as a wizard. Just a very weak single entity character in terms of soaking damage. However, eventually with gear, levels, abilities, will become a bit of a tanky powerhouse. Okay, in this case I think I'm just speed 3ing it up to wait for my additional Lord to reinforce. But to be honest, I'm looking at this army just like some nice experience for my war wagons in particular, guys. As the war wagons rank up, they will be putting out more damage.
Immediately! At speed! Quickly now! As you say, death to the faithless! Take the ground! For the Emperor! Taking position!
This being one of the easier battles that we've had all game, just utilizing those lords on horseback to prevent return fire, and slowly but surely the war wagons will put damage out and the enemy will expire.
Sir! Battle protocols! Yes, General! Awaiting your command! Sigma calls! Ready to battle! Yes, sir, quickly! Sighted and ready. Sir, moving now! We serve the Emperor. A matter of locomotion. Take the ground! For Heldenhammer! For the Emperor! Finding the angle! At speed! Ready! Hail Sigma! Engineer! Yes, General! Sons of Sigma, attack! Crucible of war! For the Emperor! Take the ground! Quick march! No lingering! Overcoming inertia!
For me, this is extremely satisfying gameplay, guys. To be in a situation which is borderline, you know, nobody else has been in. Very, very much enjoying myself at this stage of the game. Nice chill combat like this. Manageable. And stress levels are not through the roof. very satisfying. Just hoping and praying that the strategies that I've come up with, as well as a bit of blessed luck in terms of the campaign not being too brutal with misfortune, hoping we have what it takes to go all the way. Uberreich is ours, and only one more settlement, Ironman, remaining with a small force inside. That force will not contain high tier units, as it's too early in the game for high tier units. The Empire Secessionists lost their units that they start with.
Sigmarite Arch-Lector.
More pistol corps with our main stack here in order to boost the damaged ammunition of the war wagons in particular, guys. You know, they don't put out much, but as we accumulate more and more, their rank goes up and we buff them with pistol corps and technology, hoping that they're somewhat useful. You can see the Bone Rattlers in Helmgard, actually technically bordering me right now in Uberreich, and terrifying. That's not what we want to see. Such a... The Greenskins are actually one of my most scary factions to fight in general, and I think even more so with this challenge. Just the sheer numbers that they can bring with the Warg follow-up army and stuff. It can just be overwhelming, and that's exactly how they roll.
They only do when they want something.
So it's shaping up to be that this faction is going to be our new rival, as the early stage of the game going really, really well. But the Bone Rattlers are developing to become our mortal enemy at this rate. Broken Axe, I believe, is their name. I just read there, so my mistake. I've been calling them the Bone Rattlers. Not perfectly familiar with all of the different faction names and stuff. Now, I noticed that Midland's capital has fallen to the Fecundites, guys. So the Fecundites chose to actually attack Midland, and Midland is at war with the Black Pit tribe. So despite starting off well, I think Midland's in some big trouble, and the Fecundites, a natural rival of the Empire, taken over the nearby regions, also very much intimidating, which is, it's about exactly what we expected, unlike Broken Axe, which is slightly less common. Sometimes they get whacked by their surrounding legendary lords, natural enemies.
Summon the Elector Counts.
Despite being at war with Blackstone Post, I'm pretty comfortable to just kind of ignore them at this moment. I think that's what I have in mind, as they're pushed back to just recovering. Now, of course, considering he's a legendary lord, I expect that potentially he will just wreck Marienburg. But we did buy many turns with our action, and I'm not so sure that he will just whack Corone, right? I'm kind of hoping low-key that Corone will just come in there and clear him out.
Warrior of Sigmar.
In this case, I don't quite actually have the movement range, unfortunately, guys, to hit Ironheart. So I'm simply encroaching up a little bit and reinforcing. That building there will actually allow us to access another witch hunter, or a witch hunter, excuse me, guys. As well as building up the finances a little bit. But speaking of the finances, look at the financial situation starting to get really dire.
My orders are to move. I see no other option. Move! Yes.
Arch-Lector.
I was talking about defense earlier from their wire press, and that's part of the reason I'm focusing it there while leveling up. So we really want our single entities to be more tanky. Speaking of the finances, guys, you can see I just moused over the quest mission. Of course, the quest mission, I believe it takes 500 to teleport over there, and you obtain a little bit of money from the battle loot and so on, but also the massive 5,000. So my plan is to use the quest battles primarily as financial bonuses as I sort of maneuver around. Needless to say, however, I am somewhat intimidated by the actual battles themselves, so we have to take them in a nice, timely fashion. I am familiar with most of them, Carl's battles. I'm not sure if you saw there, but Corone actually has the Barrow Legion in Blackstone Post by the throat, guys. It seems like the Barrow Legion took an L. Look at that. And he's besieging Blackstone Post. So as of right now, my one move... I just checked there by clicking on the province of Forest of Verdun. They do have Castle Artois, I think it's called, up there as well. That's their second region. They have two regions. But that one move that I made against Blackstone Post has actually, it appears to have resulted in their ultimate downfall. Super satisfying, and like I said, I'm very proud of that play.
Raise your weapons. Not likely.
In this case, they have many ranged units and a lord, but with the sheer amount of single entity units that I have, most of which are on horseback, yeah, feeling pretty confident. The Emperor, I was actually, as you can see, rushing towards Lightning Strike, guys. That's what I'm going for. And the Emperor also does not have the Pistol Corps bonuses when leading a force, which does make the situation like a little bit awkward, like whether or not I want the war wagons inside of my main army, or I want to wait for them to reinforce. But if I wait for them to reinforce, then they have the bonuses. As of going into the future, my plan is to kind of have the major stack filled of heroes. That's what I had intended, led by Carl, and the lesser stack filled with war wagons, which has a specialized lord to boost the war wagons up. That's kind of what I'm thinking, but there will be some mix and matching and just making do and doing the, most practical move at any given time. Battle Vileheart, guys, the final settlement inside of Reichland. A very fitting text here for the Empire, for Sigmar, for glory! Feeling hyped, feeling really nice and good to reunify Reichland under the Reichland banner, as opposed to Secessionists. The Secessionists, which are normally a bit of a chump tutorial faction, so to speak, but in our case persisted much longer due to how much we kind of overcompensated for eliminating the real threat, the Beastman Warherd of the One Eye. Finally putting these guys in the ground, I believe it's turn 12 if I'm not mistaken, we'll see after the battle. But as they have a stronger army, they are simply just holding the hill, which is perfectly fine with me, allowing myself to just wait for my reinforcements to arrive. Now, in terms of numbers, they do have a tremendous amount of numbers here, guys, and they do have a tremendous amount of ranged units that can fire back. This is really the point at which we really wish that we had a powerful wizard, whether it's a fire wizard pretty much any wizard, even the healer would be great for the single entities, and even their basic spell in a blob is really good. But due to the lack of a healer, due to the lack of a powerful wizard that can throw the winds into a blob and provide good value, I'm a little bit concerned about their overwhelming numbers, right? I can't heal my units. Like I said, they have a lot of return fire. This is going to go on and on in terms of attrition. We're going to get worn out, we're going to get tired. And it is hard to judge how dire things actually are. But, you know, I'm feeling confident going in. I would be just oozing confidence if I had a powerful wizard, but yeah. So those are kind of my thoughts. As you can see, various blobs are forming, and we are taking damage on the single entities. So let's see how things pan out.
Ready! Taking position! Engineer! Ready for war! Detachments, move! For the Emperor! Sigma calls!
War wagons beginning to reach a little bit of a critical mass. That's probably the first time. It's kind of embarrassing in a way, guys. They're not a very powerful unit. I mean, I have 10 here, I believe. And all of them are almost firing into one regiment. It takes them a long time and a decent amount of our ammo consumed to simply take out one regiment. If we look at the health of our single entities, guys, not faring too amazingly well. So it's going to be a long attrition battle, and yeah, we're going to see how costly it is to not have that good value with our Winds of Magic. You can see already War Wagon taking a big volley there, and that's spooking me out. If I look at these melee unit spearmen, guys, terrifying. So, starting to panic just a little bit. We are beginning to receive some fire back, and if I slip up one mistake, let those spearmen engage with the war wagons, they will poke them to bits quickly. So we have to start resorting to a little bit of kiting, and one regiment of spearmen, especially the spearmen with shields, can keep our war wagons preoccupied for a long time, as well as consume their ammo as our single entities get worn down more and more and more. In my mind, I know it's going to be close, but I'm feeling pretty good about it. One thing I really want to do, if possible, you know, you can't always get what you want, is to use certain units that are on horseback to run some of their fleeing units off of the field. But I only have so many available. It's very important to me also, you can see right now, they have so many range units, guys, and the range units are even coming after my war wagons. So, in order to keep the war wagon, because we cannot just exchange fire, right? We can't do that. In order to keep the war wagons productive, dishing out some damage, getting some value, trying to use the units on horseback, as you know, the heroes, to shut down the archers and kind of aim them. Now, I opted in this situation, guys, to actually charge the archers there, as you saw. It is dawning on me, occurring to me, that I'm running out of ammo to some extent. We're getting around 60% or so, and because all of those, that whole blob there was all archers, none of which are actually melee, despite them being quite pathetic chariots in melee, they are chariots, and the war wagons can run over units which are kind of civilian-esque in melee, such as archers. You can see the wizards getting really low, guys. I am beginning to feel the stress in this final battle, and yeah, see, in this situation I can't charge them because of the lord, the swordsman nearby, but if a bunch of archers stack up, I can simply charge them. I won't get away with it with complete impunity where I don't take damage, but the damage should be very superficial. And speaking of damage, guys, you can see some of the war wagons, the ones that happen to be in the front and so on, are dipping. So I'm a little bit in panic mode. I'm opting to use those war wagons, which are nearer to us here, to shoot at the Lord at this stage. They do have armor-piercing rounds, and they do decent damage. If the Lord would fall at this stage, I'm feeling like maybe the break of the enemy would happen sooner, but he's also soaking a lot of damage, so it's stressful stuff. It's close. You're literally using our engineer at this stage to just bog down a couple units. The fact that he's fighting multiple units and stalling them is good. Finally, the Lord receiving crossfire from many wagons. He's shattered, and that is the W. That is the victory. Close, but fairly decisive. Feeling good. You know, you can see some of the wagons were taking damage. The Lord's getting low, guys. If we had that more powerful wizard to just throw some of this, look at that, 71 wins. Just a couple bombs into their blobs earlier on would be a much more clean battle. But we pulled it off even with the, I don't want to say terrible wizard roll, because the net is useful to some extent to keep them away from us. But it's definitely not a good wizard, guys, for this run. Even with the less than powerful wizard roll. Feeling great about that. And that is 0, guys, for the final battle here of our playthrough. The first episode where I have officially eliminated the 2 nations that you begin at war with, the Empire Secessionists and the Warherd of the One Eye. Speaking of the wizard, it is getting up towards banishment. You know, we've bridged the early game to some extent, and we are getting the banishment ability around the corner, which is exactly that. It's not the best, but it is a damaging AoE ability coming up. Occupying the final settlement inside of Reichland, Empire Secessionists destroyed, and province secured. Feeling really, really good. Some nice XP. And so it is turn 12, Pistol Corps up to rank 3 there, which, you know, we need that ammo and so on. Working on Lightning Strike, obviously the 3rd level of Lightning Strike, allowing you to attack without dealing with enemy reinforcements. And I did just take Banishment there, the basic AoE damaging ability. So guys, this episode is coming to an end, and you can see the situation that we're in. I hope that you enjoy this long-form content. If you're watching, thank you very much for watching to this stage of the video. And I hope, as I middle around here equipping my heroes and so on, that you are looking forward to this historic campaign, this world-first challenge, where we are going to continue on and defeat the campaign without suffering a single casualty. Despite our overwhelming success that I'm thrilled with, we only have more challenges to come. As you can see, we are essentially adjacent to the uber-powerful and obnoxious Broken Axe faction, who is officially, we boarded them, and they are our main rival as far as we are concerned. At this stage of the game, despite a faction's power, they can sometimes be dispatched relatively easily under the right circumstances, as we proved with our Blackstone Post and the Barrow Legion. One powerful decisive move can dispatch 3 of their entire armies, weakening their balance of power and making them more likely to be dogpiled by their own enemies, or alternatively making it more plausible to call people to arms through diplomacy, and then having those nations annex the enemy, whilst also utilizing the common enemy for diplomacy. So potentially you can just make a few nice, shrewd moves, and a few turns later you will have an ally on that corner, that edge, that border of your nation, as opposed to an enemy. Alright, so turn 13, guys. This is actually the turn that I'm going to call the episode here. Just looking around in diplomacy, And yeah, you guys can see what we have to deal with coming back. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you on the next episode of this historic campaign, the Zero Casualties World Record campaign. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.